Anyway, speaking of, if it didn't look like shit, I bet it hurt some people's feelings. The WrestleMania documentary. We finally got a chance to catch up with that. And we want to close the program out with some thoughts on exactly what went on there. I'm going to say this at the top of the program, and then we can delve into the minutia of it. But the first thing you see on this thing is Bruce Pritchard sitting next to the head guy, laughing and nodding his head. Some things haven't changed for 40 years.
He used to do that at 1919 Caroline.
At Pierce.
And then he used to do that in Stamford. Well, I guess he's still doing it in Stamford. At
1241 East Main Street, and then over there at, I don't know, Bug Tussle Way. I don't know what their fucking address is now. But this thing was incredibly well shot. The camera work was art. It was edited seamlessly. The voiceover was done so professionally. It was a piece of art. As a visual documentary of something that allegedly occurred. Visually, it was stunning. In content, now I know why they took 2 months. Remember, this was supposed to come out the week after because they were just going to put it together. But they had to take 2 months to figure out a way to make it look like The Rock somehow did this whole thing by himself, you know, from start to finish. And I know now I sound like you, because the Rock is my guy as far as talent goes, as far as he can come out and talk for 20 minutes and you feel like you got your money's worth. What incredible talent, but God almighty, have the years in Hollywood, now that I get a good look at him speaking as himself instead of working on television, have the years in Hollywood made him full of himself or what?
He's the male J-Lo. I said it last time and it rings true.
Well, see, I know who J-Lo is and I can point at her picture, but I don't remember if I've ever heard her speak in any kind of, I don't give a fuck about J-Lo. So it didn't really register to me what you were saying until, if this is the male J-Lo, then boy, she must be huffing a lot of her fucking methane gas too.
You know, he's completely full of shit. And it's a thing where the character doesn't end. The Rock may end, but then he begins the character of Dwayne Johnson for the public.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't like he was keeping up being The Rock. He was being Dwayne Johnson almost. It was like an eloquent Vince Russo with a good voice and a nice looking body and face and some intelligence, still claiming credit for inventing air, water, and oxygen.
You see, he could say a lot of things and he sounds very nice saying it, but I don't know if he really has great ideas or anything. It's just that he knows how to present himself. Although, considering all the editing problems and the delays or whatever it was, and a lot of people point their finger directly at $7 on The Rock, the fact that he said, I need to look good in this thing. Let me wear this shirt. Let me have this look. That's where there's a disconnect. Like, even Hogan never really presented himself like that to the public. Not that they would speak the same way, but, you know, with The Rock, it's like he's trying to be something that it doesn't seem like he really is.
Remember when Uncle Dave started calling Sting Real Estate Steve when he would show up places in a suit? He looked like just a normal guy because Sting in a suit didn't really translate. It looks like he's trying to be Executive Dwayne. And did you catch the one? Wait a minute, it was later on, but I made a note of it. Yeah. When they talked about The Rock joining the board of directors of the WWE, he called himself director of the board. As director of the board, not a member of the board of directors.
Yeah. B-O-R-E-D.
Well, but seriously, there is no such thing as director of the board, is there? But it sounds like the fucking head guy.
There was no such thing as Muhammad Ali making him the people's champion until all of a sudden he got a belt at the Hall of Fame ceremony from Muhammad Ali.
But here, the thing, it started out, Triple H basically, and you can tell that Triple H had to negotiate all this because he knew what was going on.
You could tell that he's the real deal, that he understands what needs to be done, and also to this day, he is still a masterful wrestling politician.
Yes.
Because it can't be easy to manage Dwayne Johnson. He said it several times there. He's like, and I just decided we'll do this. So I called Nick and Ari and Paul, and Triple H. Yeah, he called the guy who runs the entire company over his idea. That's what you have to deal with. If you're running creative, you now have someone who's going to run not just above your head, but to the top of the entire conglomerate.
That's where they started because Triple H talking about Cody and Roman said, we had that story and match laid out. And then The Rock comes along and he's, well, I had dinner with Nick Khan and his sister, my childhood friends from Hawaii. And he threw a wrench at the whole thing. And at the same time, TKO was buying the WWE. And The Rock was going on the campaign and showed up on SmackDown. And the way they were telling the story, Rock was like, yeah, we'd been working on this thing with me and Roman for quite some time. And and it hadn't come together. And in the meantime, something came along that the regular viewers of the television program wanted to see more. And then Rock was like, it was almost like he was talking like he didn't really have any idea that it was going to be Cody and Roman all along. He thought everything was falling into place. And then he said, oh, yeah, they've been working toward the other thing for a couple of years, but we have the opportunity to create another main event. And they used the head of the table line when Rock came into that surprise interview. And remember, we say he was down the road with the Pat McAfee show, and apparently he thought, I'll just try this out. And when he said the head of the table line, of course the fans popped. They wanted it in addition to, not instead of. Am I wrong about that? Did they say if we pop on him saying that line, that means we vote for Rock and Roman and against Cody and Roman? They just, yes, we want that too, right?
It was a great line. The delivery was really good. I don't remember the exact date, but I believe it may have even been before the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So it's not like everything was a direct line to WrestleMania at that point. Also, if The Rock didn't know what they were doing with Cody and Roman, I guess he just wasn't watching the TV.
Well, he knew what was going, but he was like, well, we'd been talking about this big thing, and then now they were doing something else.
But I'll bring it up now, because I don't know if I agree with it, and I may be one of the few who doesn't, naturally. But the idea that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, versus Roman Reigns, because The Rock would be in a singles one-on-one main event versus Roman Reigns would be such a big draw for people who are not wrestling fans. People on Peacock, because it would be the image of Dwayne Johnson there on a title screen. I don't buy that. See, that's where I hate when people try to market things like baseball's marketed for people that don't watch baseball and don't give a shit
don't
about
like
it.
baseball.
Yeah. In this case, the idea that Dwayne Johnson being in the main event was the best thing, according to him initially, because people who aren't wrestling fans are going to watch, but you piss off the entire fan base?
Yeah.
It's absurd.
That was Shitstain's whole MO for all of his life. I get the people and piss off the people that actually are watching your program and don't get the other people. But that's the thing you could tell by this. Cody realized he had to finish the story at WrestleMania. Things were up in the air suddenly, when at the Rumble, when they tell him it may be Rock and Roman. But Cody wins the Rumble anyway because Triple H knew that it would bury him not to. And to comment what you said, Rock and Roman may have been the same business-wise, viewer-wise, ticket-wise, because it's WrestleMania and it's Peacock and all that. It may have been slightly less. It may have been slightly more. But what it would have done is it would have devalued and damaged Cody to the point that it would have taken more money away cumulatively from the house shows and the TV ratings and the blah, blah, blah that would be negatively impacted by Cody not being in this position he's in right now where they're setting records, that it would cost him money if they had done Rock and Roman even if it would have gotten more publicity on Entertainment Tonight or fucking TMZ or whatever. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think Cody Rhodes, I don't think The Rock was going to draw a ton of extra people. I don't think The Rock being in the tag team match the night before, night one, was anything that to the casual person.
No. I disagree with you there because it's still The Rock coming back and wrestling.
No, I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that, but I'm saying I don't think that is any weaker than a one-on-one match for people who are not wrestling fans.
Oh, yeah,
the idea that The Rock's wrestling in that tag match means just the same to the person who's not a fan as The Rock main event night 2 against Roman.
I think you are correct in that there was going to be a negligible amount probably of regular people that aren't watching wrestling at this point in time that would tune in for The Rock, but it definitely added to WrestleMania because he was wrestling on Saturday night. But anyway, that's where they were, and then they had the injuries to Punk, and they tried to re-rack that whole thing. And Cody even commented before he did the promo where he said, "I want you, Roman, but not at WrestleMania." He said, "I was not overly excited about this." He knew that this had to be the way it was for him. It was going to cost him and the company a lot of money if that didn't go through. But here's the thing. I said I wasn't going to like this documentary because they were going to, this is how we worked out this violent fight with my good friend, and we'll show you how we did it. They did and they didn't. Did you notice you didn't see Cody Rhodes hugging Roman Reigns or The Rock? Because he's smart enough to know that there's money to be made with those guys, and it would have hurt him. But you saw Rock and Roman hugging and kissing after their promo, where they had done it, where they got in each other's face and they thought they had switched the match. And that's what I hate about these shows is the love you brother from these guys who are out there either fighting or yelling at each other or insulting each other. But Cody was smart enough to not do it because he knows because of his lineage. And he was rightfully afraid of losing the fans' faith if he didn't finish the story in the appropriate venue.
The other thing is, the big history-changing moment, or one of them, was Cody Rhodes when he gave up the match to The Rock, with The Rock and his team's intention of it making The Rock the accepted babyface and Cody slinking off to wrestle Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
When Cody didn't smile, when Cody didn't embrace it, when Cody didn't act in that moment, one of the biggest actors in this company, all of a sudden that was his reaction. That was the thing that put it all to bed. There was no way at that point the fans were going to let shit go down and let Dwayne Johnson be the babyface going into a main event against Roman Reigns. They didn't want that.
They knew Cody was getting hornswoggled. Now, they showed a bunch of video, I imagine, of personally selected podcast marks, people not affiliated with the wrestling business that have their own little podcasts, and they dress them up with the video, and they have little costumes they wear because they're playing a part. They were popping for The Rock versus Roman because I'm thinking that they probably had to guarantee Rock that there would be a certain amount of pop before they talk about the fans blitzing Twitter and social media with "We want Cody" and "Rocky sucks." They had to prove The Rock's point that a bunch of people wanted that match. But could you believe they put a bunch of, I'm not talking about a podcast from someone actually in or formerly in the industry. I'm talking about a bunch of fucking, who the fuck are these peoples? Is that a plural thing?
Reacting like children. Again, there's one thing watching these things and talking about it. It's another thing, oh my God, look at this. No one reacts like that for real on camera.
They were jumping up and down like schoolgirls with shiny new vibrators. And so...
and that vibrator's name was The Rock.
Yes, that's the thing. Did Dwayne... I know he got Gerwitz from Romper Room somewhere, but did he also sign on some people from the Kremlin and the propaganda department? Triple H was diplomatic, but you knew he knew what the fuck needed to go on. And then I started writing this down. The Rock sitting there. I called Nick. I said, even if Rock versus Roman is the bigger real world match out there in the real world, but my gut says I don't like it, even if it's a segment of fans upset. So I went with the latter, and I told these guys, and he laid it all out like it was his idea, and he told all of them what it should be and would be and could be, which was what they goddamn had originally, plus a tag team match on Saturday night for him to be involved, make money, and save some face.
And again, I disagree with the idea that it was just the bigger real world match. If Cody Rhodes wrestled...
But what a condescending way to put it. Yeah, with normal people out in the real world, I'm a big deal, but these guys, for their audience, little small audience, he didn't come off good trying to come off good. He came off like an asshole trying to come off like a beneficiary.
Yeah, and by the way, who do you think was going to win that match? Roman versus The Rock. Roman's been gone for months since then, apparently working on some projects. The Rock went right to a film project and got hurt. Who was going to win that match?
I think probably both guys' bank accounts and nobody else.
And he tries to pretend like it was all his idea. It was just a big pivot. The biggest real-world match, honestly, was The Rock against anyone. Didn't even have to be Roman. For the casual person who's not a wrestling fan, Dwayne Johnson's at WrestleMania against The Miz. It didn't matter. For the wrestling fans, it would matter who he wrestled.
Oh, come on now. The Miz.
I'm serious. For like the average person who doesn't know anything about wrestling, doesn't know who any of these people are.
Well, that's true. Then they wouldn't know who the fucking Miz was.
If that's the idea, you're going to get people who are Dwayne Johnson fans on a worldwide level because of all his films. They're not wrestling fans. It doesn't matter who he wrestles. It doesn't matter who he wrestles at WrestleMania. He just wanted to be in the main event against Roman Reigns so he could say he drew the house.
But anyway, random observations when we get to the meat of the matter. There were more office people wearing suits in this 1 hour than in the first 90 years of pro wrestling combined.
Well, that was always a Vince thing, though, wasn't it?
I know, but guy, it just looks so professional. It's not the business I knew. Everybody's wearing a fucking suit and tie. You need Terry Funk coming in goddamn flip-flops.
Where do you think that comes from with Vince, though? Just the idea that for appearance sake, everyone has to be wearing a shirt and tie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was Vince. I gotta be professional, pal. But anyway, here's another Rock quote for you. Becoming this new version, talking about being a heel, the final boss. Becoming this new version is the most gratifying decision I've ever made. I'm telling you, he's huffing his fucking flatulence. So anyway, they have the show. And one of my favorite things that they showed was Triple H producing the entrances. As well, I don't like it when they go behind the scenes and the guys hug each other after they beat the shit out of each other. And I don't like talking about creating them and booking the match and all the inside shit, but I like it when one of these programs shows you the work that goes into laying this shit out as a television program and as a live event production and going over it and anticipating problems before they happen or answering people's questions that they don't know to ask, that talent wouldn't know until they get in a position to go, oh my shit, what am I supposed to do now? Well, hopefully as the producer, I've already told him 4 hours ago. Look to that camera. Don't step on that spot or it'll blow you up. The music cue is here, whatever. And they're not just walking out there blind with no preparation as television performers in that slick a production on that big a stage. And you can tell the difference when a lot of the guys on the other program just walk out and don't know where the goddamn camera is. And so they are a level above. I hate the overly produced matches that take the life and the spontaneity out of it, but I love the fact that this is a professional television production and they're not going to build fake drywall walls with no studs that are attached to nothing. And they're not going to have rooms with windows that don't have a door to get out of. And the pyro is not going to blow the fucking guy's head off or set him on fire most of the time. And, that's it. This is a whole different level of production. And that's why that a lot of the guys are shocked when they go up there and say, wow, this is a machine. We were in chaos. We don't know what the fuck. Because they know what to do, because people that are in the position that they're in know how to produce shit, whatever they're given, whether it's television, live event, the entrance, the pyro, the finishes, or whatever the fuck. Less room for error. But and did you see the shot of Seth Rollins limping in for the run-in? They showed a ringside shot that wasn't on the Mania pay-per-view, and he was using the folding chair as a crutch. Did you see that?
I did see that, and then remember that angle or that footage we saw of him taking a bump and his leg kind of just
flopping.
You could kind of see that from the side angle from what they showed.
Yeah, but because remember we had said at the time Seth barely had gotten in the ring and didn't even stand up, and they walloped him with a chair. And I said, why in the fuck? Not really, because somehow he was out there. He couldn't walk by that point. So anyway, spoiler, Cody won the title on Sunday night at WrestleMania. And then the documentary ended with The Rock telling Cody that their story had just begun. Who's going to win that match?
Well, we'll see. If The Rock was as Hogan-like as he seems lately, he would propose or be up for a 2-year program, and then he would win match 1 and then never come back. Or insist on winning match 1, match 2, and match 3.
Hogan may have learned that from the Sheik. I think Cody Rhodes has to beat The Rock, and The Rock, as a member of the board of directors, would have to be wholeheartedly on board with that to make a bigger fucking star for the company the one that's carrying the company, not the one that bops in and serves on the board.
I'll say this now: whenever The Rock comes back, let's say, for instance, next winter, when they start building up for stuff, whenever it finally gets to him and Cody, Triple H and Cody Rhodes are going to be as frustrated as any two wrestling personalities in the world putting that together. Having to deal with Little Gewurz and his bad ideas.
Boy, he looks like one of the fucking Little Rascals, doesn't he?
When they were little or when they were grown up and they were still little?
Well, no, kind of when they were delinquent children. I don't know, Alfalfa or fucking,
Froggy?
Maybe George Foghorn Winslow with that nerdy little fucking haircut. I don't know. But if Cody Rhodes wrestles The Rock, Cody Rhodes has to win, or they're all completely out of their minds.
So again, I've been talking about issues behind the scenes and personality and fakeness from The Rock for a while now. Are you starting to see it a little more?
But again, I said that earlier. Don't wring it out of me again. I hate to admit when I'm wrong. But as a performer, he's brilliant.
Yes.
But when you saw him sit down and talk like a normal person allegedly is supposed to talk, he's about to award himself the Nobel Prize for literature for this whole thing. He's responsible for everything. I called this guy and told him this. That's why all the memes are out. I said this to the other guy. I told Lincoln, don't go to the theater. The play's the shits, whatever.
See, watching this, I end up feeling bad for Triple H. I know it's crazy to say, because I think he's doing a really good job, and watching just the limited footage, and again, it's company footage, seems like he's the man for the job.
Yeah.
And he's got it down. And look at the direction of the good stuff on their TV. Everything's moving along like a wrestling company nicely. Amongst that stuff, not the Uncle Howdy shit and everything else.
Right. But overall, Triple H, boom, no complaints. He's doing a better job than anybody's done there in quite some time.
So now it's The Rock. Whenever The Rock comes back now, he's technically Triple H's boss. or not even technically, he's Triple H's boss. He's one of his bosses.
But now,
also, he's going to be a top talent, and also he wants to go directly to the people who run the company to make sure his stuff happens.
He's the biggest star in the business to the mainstream population, and he is old childhood friends with the guy that is running the company now on behalf of the conglomerate. But is he technically really Triple H's boss? Because if you're on the board of directors, you still can't, if somebody that sits on the board of directors couldn't have, in the old WWE, would one of those people that we've never heard of before, they were just put there because they had a business background, would they technically have had the power to go into a Raw taping if Vince wasn't there and tell people what to do?
No.
So Rock may be on the board of directors and obviously has a great amount of sway and etc., but he's not technically Triple H's boss, which I think makes the idea of a Triple H and Rock issue on television at some point when he comes back even more, something to look forward to more, because Triple H can come out and say, no, you're on the board of directors. You ain't my fucking boss. Well, Nick Khan's my childhood friend. Well, tell Nick Khan to come over here and tell me something then, motherfucker.
And by the way, Nick Khan works day to day with Triple H. Day to day.
Well, yes. And then Nick Khan could come out and say, you know what, Dwayne, I never really thought all that much of you when we were kids or whatever. I don't know. But the point is there's conflict that can be manipulated there. That's real in some respects, but can be turned into work.
Well, that's the thing. It's going to be real. Because the only reason The Rock is doing all this, the only reason he's back, it's not just all the money. It's the idea that he's going to get to do his stuff the way he wants to do it. If that starts getting rejected, you're going to start having problems. Big stars.
I'm not going to start having any problems. They all do what they want. I don't give a shit.
Big stars are not used to being rejected when they have their ideas out there, and The Rock's on a little bit of a roll with this. And again, look at just the change in public perception and reaction from people over the last year between the Cody stuff, the In-N-Out Burger stuff, the Hawaii stuff, the Black Adam stuff, the articles, and then whenever he has a chance to go out there and make himself look good, his choice is to present himself in a weird, condescending manner that looks bad, I think, to almost anyone.
That's a good word. It seemed he was condescending, like he was above everyone else and sending out directions on, well, I have a grip on all of this and this is what we should do. He was too full of himself.
And you said he was the biggest worldwide star they have. I don't know. It's an interesting question, him or Cena. Because Cena doesn't have anything negative, really. He's really good at shaking shit off. And he speaks as fake as The Rock in a lot of ways. But there's also a genuineness there, I think.
Well, I think just because of seniority, more people know of, when I say biggest star, I'm talking most well-known personality. Whether you're a fan or you just know who he is or you recognize him or whatever, The Rock is that.
I agree with that. The Rock is the bigger...
I think John Cena might be a more popular personality amongst the wrestling fan population at this point, but more people know who The Rock is.
See, it's going to be interesting if that switches, because he's filming Peacemaker season 2 right now. Season 1 people loved. You got to think season 2 has a chance to be bigger than that. He's dedicating a lot of time to that. There's going to be a publicity machine around his name for the next year.
Yeah.
And again, he doesn't have the baggage of Dwayne Johnson. He's impressed a lot of people with his roles still, the way you used to hear Dwayne Johnson, like in the early days when he first went to Hollywood. You know, remember he played a homosexual in the sequel to Get Shorty? I forget the name of the movie.
Well, you don't have to just goddamn label him as that.
No, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not
Dwayne has
him.
often been struggling with his sexuality.
But it was a big deal. I didn't say that. Again, this is Jim Cornette, Dwayne. But he played a role that was outside of what you would consider to be something that The Rock would do in Hollywood. He lost a lot of weight. He was trying to be a serious actor. And for a little while, people were impressed with him. And then he realized where the money was, which was taking every fucking steroid known to man and doing action movies wearing the same outfit in every single movie and playing the same role and being the same character in just about every movie you do. And it worked for him. But it's like a wall. There's a wall that he hit. Meanwhile, Cena is now emerging. And again, if season 2 comes out sometime next year, I would assume, and is a hit, because of the nature of streaming and where we are as a society right now, movie stars versus streaming stars or just stars in general, Cena will probably surpass The Rock within a few years if things work out.
I think it was that nude scene that Cena did that propelled him over the top.
Oh, with...
we still haven't seen The Rock's yin-yang.
His yin-yang?
His, tallywhacker, however you want to phrase it, ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. Him and Chuck Berry. We haven't
Chuck
seen
Berry's
either
last
one.
hit. That was his last hit.
Yep. That was his last hit and his favorite thing. My ding-a-ling. Have we ding-a-linged enough yet today here on this program?
Any closing thoughts on the WrestleMania document? Did you see the part, one of my favorite parts, when Cody, they film him coming out of the bus and the Dusty truck is right across from him. Dusty's face. And he explains it. I never heard it laid out like this, and I was losing it. That smile Dusty would do. He says, he would call that his $1 million smile, but nobody smiles like that. Yeah. And it was such a funny observation. I really laughed at that. That was good.
He did that. One of the first times I saw Dusty was I had gone to my Uncle Harold's house in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and they had cable. And it wasn't like they had cable because they were a big city. It's like some of those towns down there had cable first because that was the only way you could get fucking television. Oak Ridge wasn't bad, but further up in the holler, you needed some type of assistance. And TBS had, what was that, 76, 77, brand new on the satellite. And there's Dusty Rhodes doing the promo, and he said, and I want to say my $1 million smile, I'm going to give it to you right now. A psychedelic camera lady, turn your camera on a close-up of this and hit the $1 million smile. And he'd do that, like the photo op. And
nobody smiles like that.
And he was just doing bullshit, that nobody else was doing with the felt hat and the tie-dyed shit and the psychedelic fucking robes and whatever. Anyway, yeah, the documentary, visually a piece of art, somewhat rewriting history, trying to sanitize Dwayne Johnson's reputation as almost fucking his whole thing up.
Yeah, and this is the best case scenario. This is after months of edits or whatever the hell was going on behind the scenes. What do you think of that? The idea that this was supposed to come out, they advertised it almost right away, and it took them months, and everyone's pointing to Dwayne Johnson. This was the way he was presented in the finished product.
Yeah, and I think they kind of probably realized as they were going through this, they intended to do a documentary on WrestleMania all along, and they were shooting from the very start, but they didn't realize that all this shit would go on in the middle. And then somebody, because I'm sure they were also editing a rough cut as they went along. They weren't just going to start from scratch on Monday morning after WrestleMania. They had some of the story put together if they were going to release it that week. But then somebody probably brought up and say, it looks like we really didn't have our shit together at all. If we tell this whole story, warts and all, we look kind of fucking foolish. And The Rock looks like he got in the middle of something and tried to take the fans' enjoyment away. So they had to start from scratch and reevaluate everything. And that's why it took, May, June, July, 3 months instead of the week of. Well, it's close, but that's what I think.
Well, there it is, the WrestleMania Behind the Curtain documentary.
And also, I think they owe me some kind of payment because they took the title of my best-selling graphic novel available at JimCornette.com along with so many other fine pieces of merchandise and used it for their documentary.
Well, Stephen Pinu could probably take care of that. On the topic
Yeet!
On the top, don't say that. He can't help you now.